Hey guys, so it looks like if Dr. Fauci is being threatened, and not only him, but his wife and his children. How unfortunate.
Dr. Fauci says his wife and kids have been subject to violent and sexual explicit threats.
You always take threats that people make seriously, but I quite frankly don't know what they're talking about. What are the charges that you saved millions of lives with the vaccine that you helped develop, or that you got people to do things that were interventions that made them more safe against a deadly pandemic that killed 1.2 million people?
Yeah.
So if trying to save people's lives is a crime, then I'm guilty, you know?
Yeah.
Well, they're self-destructive and you're interfering in that.
Right.
That was Dr. Fauci on The View. And we are so sorry to hear that he's been threatened, and also his family. A lot of people are saying that he helped develop this virus, COVID-19, and it escaped from the Wuhan lab, which killed over 1 million people. He recently testified in Congress, and Congress did not find any wrongdoing on his behalf. However, other doctors on his team in the development of COVID-19 were found guilty by Congress of wrongdoing. However, you cannot blame people for being upset, because a lot of people lost loved ones, grandmas, grandpas, children, father, brothers, etc. A lot of people lost their family members as a result of COVID-19. As a matter of fact, the first day of his testimony in Congress, one of the reporters said, "You killed my mother." And that was so poignant, because this is how a lot of people feel. But I don't know if that was the place for him to say that.
Dr. Anthony Fauci says he and his family been subjected to violent and sexual explicit threats since the COVID-19 pandemic, during which he spearheaded the federal government's response. Days after participating in a congressional hearing about the U.S. response to the disease, Fauci reacted to those calling for his prosecution and imprisonment and threatening him and his loved ones. "You know, obviously, you always take threats that people take seriously, but I, quite frankly, don't know what they're talking about," he said on the Thursday, June 20th broadcast of The View. "What are the charges? That you saved millions of lives with the vaccine that you helped develop, or that you got people to do things that made them more safe against a deadly pandemic that killed 1.2 million people. So if trying to save people's lives is a crime, then I'm guilty," Fauci, 83, said. Fauci served as the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases for nearly 4 decades and advised 7 presidents. When asked by co-host Sunny Hostin if he's angry or fearful about the threats he and his family have received, he described it as a case of mixed emotions. "The thing about it is, this is what I'm doing, and it is what it is, and I wouldn't do anything different. Of course, nobody likes to be threatened, and I'm threatened with real, credible threats. The thing that infuriates me is the cowardliness of people who harass my wife and my children," he said. "You know, 3 young women in the beginning of their professional life, getting harassed both for violent and sexual explicit threats. That's unconscionable," continued Fauci. "And is that a reflection of who we are in this country? What is that? I just don't get that." Fauci and his wife, Christine Grady, share 3 daughters. Fauci opened up about developing tough skin through his years in science and medicine while discussing his recently released memoir, On Call, A Doctor's Journey in Public Service, with people. In On Call, A Doctor's Journey in Public Service, he details the heartbreaking medical school moment his training is very close to home. Dr. Anthony Fauci is a household name the way few other doctors are. From his new memoir, he was one of People's 4 People of the Year in 2020 for his guidance in the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic, but that was far from the first time Fauci found himself at the forefront of an epidemic. The Brooklyn-born doctor, 83, served as the director of the National Institute of Allergy and Infectious Diseases for 4 decades and advised 7 presidents. During that time, he helped guide public policy on HIV/AIDS, SARS, MERS, avian influenza, swine flu, Zika and Ebola. For his work, he has received the Presidential Medal of Freedom, the National Medal of Science and the Mary Woodard Lasker Award for Public Service, and has been awarded 62 honorary doctoral degrees. After retiring from NIAID in 2023, Fauci now serves as Distinguished University Professor at Georgetown University with a joint appointment in the School of Medicine and the McCourt School of Public Policy. His new book, On Call, A Doctor's Journey in Public Service, out June 18th, takes readers through his extensive contributions to science and medicine, but it all starts where Fauci's roots do, the Brooklyn neighborhood where he grew up. I joke about it, that Brooklyn tough suck-up attitude that you focus on what your job is, and all that other stuff as unpleasant as it is a distraction, he tells people. What's really important is your job. Saving lives, promoting public health and your family. Anything else is nonsense. Fauci, the son of Eugenia Lillian and Stephen A. Fauci grew up in an apartment above the pharmacy his father owned, working the register with his mother and sister, and delivering prescriptions. His family and Jesuit education instilled in him a strong work ethic, a stiff upper lip and a focus on the humanity of his patients that contributes to what he calls the art and science of medicine. The science is making the right diagnosis. The science is ordering the right medication. That's the science of medicine, he explains. The art of medicine is how you deal with the individual human being. And that's the thing that's driven me in all of my interactions in medicine and science, that the patient is the focus of everything. You do not treat the disease. You treat the patient. Keeping that balance in mind has been key to his work, as shifting his attention where it matters most, something he may have honed on the basketball court as a teen. I am pretty good at compartmentalizing and just shutting stuff out, he says. You gotta train yourself for it, and I think my upbringing trained me well for that. Below, in an exclusive excerpt shared with People, Fauci details one of the first times he had to do just that. Nothing could have prepared me for the day during my 4th year when my mother came to visit and told me that she felt weak and bloated and had lost her appetite. Having just finished my rotation on the internal medicine ward, I felt a jolt in my gut. I immediately set up an appointment for my mother, who was 56 years old, with my attending physician, Dr. David M. Roseman. Dr. Roseman saw her in his office within 2 days. Tony, I am very sorry, but I believe the situation is serious, he said. It is likely a cancer. I felt numb, but for the first time I was thinking about my mother both as a son and as a physician. What next? She needed surgery for a definitive diagnosis, so the attending surgeon, Dr. Henry Mannix, did an open biopsy. Again, a call that I kind of expected. Tony, your mother has a liver full of tumor, and the prognosis is really very bad. The only thing to do for my mother was to keep her comfortable. I was training to be a physician, and here I was helpless. I took the subway to Brooklyn and told my father. It was one of the most painful moments in my young life. He was crushed. My mother died 8 short weeks later. My father had lost the love of his life. I did not have the luxury of grieving properly. I was in the middle of my surgery rotation in my final year of medical school. We buried my mother in Greenwood Cemetery in Brooklyn, and I had to be back on call on the wards the next night. I stuffed my painful feelings down deep and put my energy into saving the lives that were possible to be saved. Excerpt from his new memoir, On Call, A Doctor's Journey in Public Service.
As you leave the page, don't forget to hit the like bell and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so as yet. Thank you for watching.